With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoweh's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful ends for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more. Welcome, friends and allies, to the Exploring More podcast. I'm Michael Thompson, hanging out with S.J. Jennings. Good to see you, S.J.
Yeah, buddy.
And our brother in arms, Greg Sailors, who, by the way, bro, you do a phenomenal job with our allies.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I think a patriot, they're retreating, right? And he grabs the flag and starts running towards the fray. That's what Greg does.
If you've got Photoshop skills, if you follow Greg Sailors on social media, you can find a picture of him. If you can Photoshop him onto Mel Gibson when he's running with that flag and the Patriot.
Send it to us at support, S-U-P-P-O-R-T, support at Zoweh.org. We'll send you a Columbia Zoweh fleece.
Yeah, or Exploring More at Zoweh.org, either one. Yeah, we'll get your shirt size and we'll send you some Zoweh.
You will be rewarded.
Gear. Yeah, you will.
That's
And forever, that picture will be shown when Greg is speaking at our weekends.
It'll live on in infamy, I'm sure.
But Greg Sailors, four boys.
We digress.
From 3 to 13. SJ's got Stephen, who is 25, and I have 3 girls who are 26, 24, and 21.
Sherry and I had Stephen when we were 15.
That's right. Yeah. So we're going to try to wrap up this fatherhood series, session 4, Secrets to Fathering and Fatherhood, fathering well.
Yeah.
Right. Real quick, the review is what? First,
well, you got to get your heart back first. Yeah. We've talked about that.
Foundational, fundamental,
and
critical.
continue to get your heart back. It's not just, okay, I went to a weekend and I'm all better now. It's a journey, right?
I said in the last of the series, session 3, it'd be so good to just check into a camp for a month or, get some kind of deep fatherhood
camp.
Yeah. Change the oil, change out the tires and
Dad
brakes,
rehab.
get some real rehab. Yeah.
The Heart of a Warrior, shameless plug, is kind of like that.
It's kind of like
the weekends are helpful to that.
Yeah,
that's
there's one coming up in Ohio in August and then another in Colorado in October.
That's right. So check the Zoweh website.
Zoweh.org/events.
Yeah. But I was talking to a guy this morning about the events. He said, so what is it kind of like just looking under the hood? And I said, yeah. I said, but honestly, we do a good bit of looking in the trunk. What's in the back?
Yeah.
What are you hauling around?
Right.
The engine's always going to be important, but what are you carrying?
Man, that's funny. I remember my dad's car. I'm a kid of the 70s, right? So those trunks, they're like tiny houses.
Yep.
A family of 4 could live in there, but there was always like just random junk back there. So junk in the trunk, right? But tools and piece of wood in case you need a piece of wood.
I was always fascinated with my dad's toolbox. That. I mean, there's all kinds of treasures.
Fishing equipment. I mean, not to mention the tire.
Right,
the spare tires
giant
in there with the
spare
jack,
tire.
You could lay down in there, put some bodies.
Yeah, they sell those jacks at U-Haul now. Those could really jack up a car. So, all right, we digress. Talking about fatherhood, and let's get back on track because we want to tell some more stories. We want to explore more of some things that we've learned.
Yeah.
There's some do's and don'ts, and just want to cover a few more of those things too. One of my regrets, brothers, was when they were younger, and I didn't know this, and yet we have taken back ground so much. I have ground still to take back with them, but one of the things that I wish I had heard, don't tell them how to feel. Rob and I both have just kind of grieved that. How to feel towards one another, how to feel in a moment that they might be sad. Why are you sad? You shouldn't be sad. Kind of give them the sunny side of whatever. Or, there's kids that would love to have that. Just be very careful of telling them how to feel. Okay, so I'm looking at my friends across this table.
I've got 1,000-yard stare going on right now.
Their eyes are both just off in the, crap.
I ain't never done that.
I do have 1,000-yard stare going on. I don't know where I was looking, but I know what I was thinking.
So be careful. Be careful on that one. What are a couple other things you guys wish you knew then what you know now?
I would probably be more free with Stephen to just explore his world. There were things that he would want to do Dad, can we run up there and look at that thing? Or can we go up the slide the wrong way? Or can we do any of those things? And I would just not engage with him in some of those, you know.
Stay on the park bench.
Yeah, man, don't go off the path and don't break the rules because, you know, if you're going to be a good little citizen, you don't do those things. And it's funny because now I don't really care about those things, you know, but when I was younger with him, I was pretty strict. And again, that goes back to parenting for behavior rather than parenting for character and for the heart. Yeah.
All right, Greg. So how about you? What do you wish you'd known then that you know now?
Again, 2 generations of that. My olders and then my youngers, I would have answered that differently, right? And so the youngers now, I'm doing things to answer that question that I did to my olders, I wouldn't do to my youngers anymore, right? But I think the main thing is not proving that I'm right.
Wow.
I am right most of the time, by the way. Or at least
that's funny. We have that in common.
Or it feels that way. But winning the fight. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that is such a direct correlation of a wound with my dad. He and I went at it like cats and dogs all the time when it came to being right. Now, there was never a night or a day that there wasn't I love you or a hug or whatever with him. But if whatever it was, I was going to be right. And so I've done that some with my boys, particularly with my oldest, Jackson. He's right, you know, like me. And so doggone. You know, so if I could do that differently, that would be it.
As I think about it more, Michael, I also want to add, take advantage of the time that you have because you just don't realize how fast the time goes.
Yeah, you hear that when they're little.
It sounds like a Hallmark card. But
we heard that when we were little, and now we're the ones saying it, right? To those who have littles.
That's exactly right, man.
Yeah.
And I remember being a parent at 25 years old and thinking, come on, I don't need to go play with him every time he asks me to go play with him because there's plenty of time. I'll play with him tomorrow or this or that. And that's actually probably something I need to circle back around on with him is, you know, because I know I said that to him a lot. We'll do it tomorrow, buddy.
Well, on another podcast, when we were talking about allies one time, you might remember the statistic or about what was wrong with men. I think was that. We talked about, and this comes from Carolina's Men of Integrity, the average man spends 7 minutes a week with their children.
Wow.
If you remember that.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah. But... And so, man, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And back to instead of even defending myself there, like, wait a minute, what constitutes 7 minutes? You know,
I spent 14 minutes.
We're not talking about in the car and in at
the average
at the dining room table. I mean, so go ahead and take that statistic and go, well, if it's concentrated, if it's focused, if it's really you and them and you, blow that number up. Be with.
You got to be creative.
With, right? Not just there in the back seat. That's not part of the 7 minutes.
Right.
You know, or they're at the dinner table while you are, or they're in the living room watching TV while you're working on something. We're talking about really
playing
engaged.
with their toys while you're watching a football game. That's not what we're talking about.
No, that counts.
Everybody strike what SJ said.
Yeah. You know, but back to our phones, you know, when they track how much you've been on them.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
gosh. I mean, I got rung up for that the other day.
Oh, man.
I'm like, come on, man.
There's no way that's true.
I'm actually buying your gift, doggone it. You only knew for your birthday.
Yeah. This last one was about who's right, winning the argument. That's a good one. So I want to mention a few of these and let's just see what kind of stories come up. The one that was on my heart first, and I think, Greg, you can maybe share some light to this. When they were at different ages, you really do have to kind of zoom in on where they're at. You know, there were times I think I treated Abby like a teenager when she was not even a tween.
Right.
You know, you got that oldest one that's hitting markers before the others, and it's hard to sort out what's appropriate here for them, for their age. And I know that we wanted to make it equal and fair, but Rob and I just didn't do well there, taking into consideration sometimes where one of the daughters was versus another one. Yeah, I just don't think that they have a good record of us sorting that out very well. You know, Abby got to do things a lot younger than the other two.
Oh, man.
When it came to some things.
I think that's universal, man. I'm the youngest of 5, and my oldest sister is 15 years older than I am. And she will tell you to this day that I got away with bloody murder as a child and got to do things way earlier than she did.
Well, you know? Number one, you made mom and dad way more tired.
Thanks for that.
Thanks for setting that up. and I saw how much trouble my older siblings got in, so I wasn't doing that.
I learned.
You know?
I'm looking at you, Clifford.
Yeah, so, I mean, to your question, you got to be a dad ninja All the time.
Yeah.
You really do.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to hone your skills. You got to get extended training. You know, other dads to walk with you, all those things, right? You know, you're right. For my kids, it's the same thing. I mean, as you were saying, SJ, about your own story, Jackson gets parented, you know, and I've apologized to him several times, buddy, you're the first.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just telling you. Me and you together, we're making some new ground.
Yeah, pioneering.
You know, we're making crap up as we go sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, and forgive me for that. I love you. Please be all right with that. And he has a pretty good chuckle about that. But yeah, as we move along all the way down to Josh at 3, I mean, it's so hard to be the 3-year-old dad and the 13-year-old dad at the same time. Mm-hmm. I mean, you really have to get your headspace into knowing their hearts well.
Yeah.
And not overwhelming them with the things that you get excited about because you have a 13-year-old. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but for me, having a 13-year-old that's almost 14 now, that's grown up in this message, we can share things that I've always wanted to share. And so back to recovering some things, you know, I think about my dad and my dad passing away when I was 21 and how much I'm enjoying Jackson at 13 and being 14 now and being able to explore some things with him that I wish my dad might have would have explored with me.
Yeah.
You know?
That's good. I would say to friends, just be aware the enemy's after him. One of my prayers as I became more and more oriented is, oh my gosh, how am I wounding them? What am I doing? How's the enemy using me to get to them? But also, how's he using the world? Mm-hmm. If they live in the same story you do, then protecting them, you know, learning how to do that, to be mindful and pay attention, just assume that the enemy's coming after them with lies about who they are in the world, how they are in the world, what's wrong with them. You know, so the opportunity to speak into their lives, if you can establish, right, that line of communication, that's critical. But if they're afraid of you or feel shame from you, and that's kind of mostly what they feel, the good stuff's going to have a hard time getting through when they're used to the criticism. We call it instruction, teaching. It can feel like criticism to their hearts.
It's the safe stuff that we talked about on the last episode.
Yeah.
You know, creating that environment.
You said listening, SJ, these are good things. You know, a couple other things. Be careful what you confide in your kids. Be really careful what, quote, secrets you tell, confiding in them. They're not there to be your best friend. They're there to teach you how to love. And this happens, I think, too, in blended families. I get it. Dad talking about ex-wife. It's still their mom. You know, mom talking about dad. Even when families are together, right? Or talking about siblings, talking about your kids to them. I had a couple coaches in high school and college. The players are playing, right? And I was on the bench plenty. So
coaches talking to you.
So something happens out there, and he would turn around to the bench. Why does he do that? We don't teach that. Do we teach that? Well,
no, coach.
We're all sitting there.
I can do it better.
Yeah, that's what we're feeling. Like, why are you telling us? You know, so just you want to be real careful, right? To tell one child some secret, some stuff about another child, how you think and how you feel. Because what the enemy will do is use that against you.
Yep.
Sooner or later, I wonder what he says about me to them,
right?
About their mom, about their kids. And this is true for the families that have been broken up.
Yeah, no doubt. And dads, I want to make sure, Michael, and then we'll take a break and we'll come back with more of these things. But I want to make sure if you're listening and you're a single parent, dad, or if you are in a blended family, we understand that you're in the same ocean, you're in the same story, you're in the same kingdom we are, but you swim in a little bit of different water. And so I want to recommend, if you visit familylife.com, they've got a whole set of resources for blended families called Family Life Blended. I think it's about, you know, in the average church attendance now, about 40% are either currently a part of a blended family or grew up in a blended family.
Wow.
And so I'm not bringing up anything about a stigma or anything like that. I mean, we understand that life happens, and Family Life Blended is the step family ministry that I want to recommend. And then just go to familylife.com and do a search there for single parenting. And there's a bunch of resources that come up that specifically address the challenges of single parenting. So check those out. And we want to thank you again for listening. We'll be right back after this break, and we're going to talk more about just our experience as dads and go through more of our encouragements.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Here's a message for you dads from the Zoweh team. Father's Day is coming up, and we want to encourage you. You've got this. Being a dad is a tremendous role. and it's one of the toughest jobs a man can step into. Whether you're attempting to blaze a trail or you're trying to step into your father's footsteps, every dad is needed. Because we believe that dads are so important, this Father's Day we're offering 2 resources to equip and encourage dads for their role. One is the 14-day devotional ebook, Being Fathered by God. It's foundational to get your heart back in order for you to be able to step in and fight for the hearts of your kids. The second resource is an audio recording from one of the Heart of a Warrior conference sessions entitled, Fighting for the Hearts of Your Kids. Your children live in the same story that you do. And what if your dad had had a battle plan to better protect and provide for your heart? Go to Zoweh.org and click on Explore Offers to download these resources. That's ZOWEH.org. One last thing. We are featuring a $5 additional discount on the Heart of a Warrior book. Use the coupon code HEART5. That's HEART 5. And remember, before you can become the warrior, you have to become the beloved son. Be encouraged, dads. You got this.
Welcome back to the Exploring More podcast, talking about dads, fatherhood. This particular episode has a little bit of the do's and don'ts from our experience, what we wish we'd have done, what we wish we'd have known. I think we want to say, Greg, right? It's never too late.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how old you are, or
how old your kids are.
How old your kids are.
Yeah. It's never too late to father them well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you may have to earn the right to get back in there.
Mm-hmm.
You may have to invite them. What was it like to have me as a dad? I want to hear about how that went for you.
I'm so sorry for the ways that I wounded your heart.
That's
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, that's not the way to sweep into the big conversation.
And sometimes it's prayer. It just starts with prayer. Like you can't even approach them yet.
Yeah.
You know, we tell them in prisons all the time that these walls won't hold you. You can start praying. You're powerful in your domain.
You're still dad.
You're still
the father. And in the economy of God, you have a weight and an influence in the spiritual
next thing
realm.
might be a letter, you know, so there's just
and
a whole
responsibility. I mean, you have a weight and an authority there, regardless of circumstances, but you also have a responsibility.
Yes, you do.
They may not want to forgive you first round, second, third. But what kind of man do you want to be? What kind of father, even mother? You know, there's a whole other side of this, right? That our wives have been talking about and brought onto the Mother's Day a few weeks ago.
Questions are just a great way to start, though.
Mm-hmm.
They really are.
Yeah. You can do this. You got this. You're a father. You're in this game. And being fathered as you father is so critical. And some things I've been learning over the last 10 years or so with my girls, I just want to encourage you with a few things. Hey, tuck them in as long as you can.
That's right.
Tuck them in as long as they'll let you.
As long as they'll let you. That's right.
It's important to share with them what you're reading or what you're learning, but do it in a way, hey, I came across this thought about you. What do you think about this?
Text, emails.
Right, text and emails, YouTube clips. Robin and my 3 and my son-in-law, in the mornings, you'll see kind of our little string together, you know, in our family are popping on there what they're learning. Look at this. Listen to this. Worship songs, what they're reading, a picture sometimes of some things that are highlighted and underlined. So what we're talking about really, right, SJ, is engaging, finding ways to engage in their world. Greg, you've done this really well. I'm going to bring this one up. What are some of the things that you've read with your sons?
Yeah.
Read together something, right? What have you read with them that you guys got a lot of mileage out of?
Sure. And it's important to know in my story that my dad did that with me too.
And it's from your fondest memories, right?
It is absolutely some of my fondest memories. So we've read together at one point or the other, sometimes in pairs, the Chronicles of Narnia, a lot of Tolkien stuff, particularly with my oldest Jackson. He and I have read through several series of books, Silmarillion, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, of course, a lot of those types of things. And then with my other boys, my younger boys, we've read through recently, not The Old Man and the Sea, The Old Man and the Boy by Robert Roarick. And then my oldest is reading through that now. So that's been a lot of fun, you know, a lot of boyhood stuff, but also some things where you're inviting them into more as a man and trying to make sure that you highlight in those stories places in their masculine development that they're in.
So last fall, great story about Jackson. Last fall, we've been walking with and offering to men the Heart of a Warrior since it came out 3 years ago, almost 4 now. And so, but Jackson read it.
Yes.
And he wrote me a review.
Yeah.
And he wanted to talk to me. It was so fun to, you know, to have this 13-year say, well, First of all, let me say, I think it's a pretty good book. Like, thanks, Jackson. That's great.
Right off the bat, that's pretty good.
And then he had another 3 or 4 things he wanted to tell me, and he had it written out. That was precious. But I think this opportunity, what are they reading? What can you read with them? And I'm not just talking about the Dr. Seuss books when they're little. I mean, find out. What are they reading?
You did that with your girls with Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah. That was a decade plus of a lot of Potter between the 3 of them. And then the films.
And then the conversations that come from that.
Yeah. We did a couple Barnes & Noble Midnight Madness, actually. Ordered our book early, showed up in line late and got our copy, and stepped into that. So
I would say that's true of movies too, just a little.
Absolutely.
To add,
that's my next category. What are they watching? What have they watched? And now with Netflix and Hulu and everything that's so streamed, what are they watching? What is it that they're engaging in? How can you get in there and maybe watch a show? But more importantly, ask the questions. What do you love about this? What characters do you connect with? If you just watch the show and it's over, that's not what we're talking about, or read the book, but rather to engage in their story, try to help them translate story into what they're going through, what they're seeing, what they feel about things.
Jackson and I are preparing to go with our partnership with New Frontiers, Chris Hartenstein, who we want to have on the podcast at some point, father-son trip out to Montana. And one of the movies we have to watch to get ready is The Last of the Mohicans. One of my absolute favorites. A lot of it's been shot in Western North Carolina. I grew up in Western North Carolina. So I had so much fun saying, hey, this is where this location is, or that's where that location is. And at the very end, God just nudges me a little bit because I'm tired too. It's late last night, actually.
It's a long movie.
It is.
Yeah. It's 2+ hours, right?
And so he's
3
like,
maybe.
God's asking him what character he sees himself as. And so, So buddy, would you like the movie? Yeah, loved it. Loved the music. He's a music guy. So that's some of the best soundtrack I've ever heard. Can you download that for me? I've already got it, bud. So anyway, I asked, who did you identify with? He talks about, which was really interesting to me. There's only one scene where he's called this, but Daniel Day-Lewis's character by Sashim, the Huron chief of the tribe, says, "Go in peace, Long Rifle." So he says, I see myself as Long Rifle.
Wow.
I'm like,
so it's in there one time.
One scene, and it's not even said. It's in the subtitles.
Subtitle, right. That's
really
powerful. Right.
Tell me what that means.
Well, what's great about that is, and I know you're going to hang on to that.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I want to swing to, talking about validation, initiation, and things like that. Because here's what you're looking for, dads. What can you call up? What can you invite them? Affirm in them as to who they are and who they are becoming, right?
Right.
Yeah, so let's talk for a minute about the power of words.
Perfect.
Yeah, because I think we underestimate, I know I did for a long time, I underestimated the power of my words in my son's life and my father's words, other people's words in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it really wasn't until, honestly, Sherry and I started to have some of the marital problems we had. And after we started to reconcile, she had told me about how anytime somebody wanted to speak ill of me, she would cut them off because she didn't want to have to undo that going out into the kingdom. So if someone said, oh man, you should just divorce that dog and kick him to the curb or whatever, she'd be, don't say that. Because when you call him that, words have power, right? Our words have authority, and they go forth and do what we instruct them to do. Mm-hmm, so when we're talking about validating our children, we have to have that context. We have to have understanding. This is one of the ways things work. Mm-hmm. And the way this works in the kingdom is your words have power and authority. And so we've got to be careful with them, and we've got to be intentional with them when it comes to our children.
Yeah, I get that. Back to the 100-yard stare, I love to tell my kids I love them. I do that a lot, and physical love as well as words. But to give you an example, so Phase 10, if you've never played Phase 10, don't. It's the devil's game, but because you want to win and you want to make other people suffer by skipping them or, all kinds of things like that. Maybe that's just our family.
Yeah, you guys are hardcore, Phase 10.
We definitely are. So me and Luke and Jackson and Chrissy will play continually in the evenings for our last 30 minutes of the night before they go to bed. Well, anyway, we were really cutting on each other one night. So back to that, it's like, you can let them cut on you, but when you start cutting on them, it's just different. And so
fun-loving, teasing.
It's so good.
I mean, some of that stuff. But I know, that's what I'm saying. I've put it in that category. They can dish it out. I'll dish it out. To your point, whew,
my gosh.
When it gets escalating, go ahead. I know this story.
Yeah, one instance. So we're doing that, and I was just like, you guys are going to get it. And I skip. And then I went out, and everybody got left with their cards. So they all got lots of points. And so I pulled the L on the head, losers, kind of thing. But we were doing it in my defense, right? We were all doing it, but I did it maybe a little more than I should. And back to Luke and his getting upset. If you heard in the last podcast, he got so upset at me. And it just crushed my heart because I'm like, kid, that's not my heart for you.
Yeah.
Power of your words, everybody.
That's right. Real quickly, what are some of the things that you see in your boys? One or two words, the glory of their life. And I want to get back to this long rifle, and I get back to the words piece that SJ was talking about, validation, initiation, ceremony. How can we recognize some of these things and then really put it in our folders, in our bank to, hey, when he's 14, I know that meant something to him.
Yeah.
So here's a year later or 2 years later, he opens up some package.
And there's a long
rifle,
Winchester rifle or something in there.
Maybe an old one that doesn't work anymore.
I'll have a GoFundMe, everybody. It'll be in the link.
Yeah. But I think of those
or maybe a BB gun, a Red Ryder. It's just something to mount on the wall.
That's right.
Maybe,
I saw this at a garage sale. I saw this at a flea market. I saw this online, and I thought about you.
Well, back to the last episode, we were talking about things that we wish we might have known. Or one of the things I have learned in this message in the last 15 years is to validate your children, like we're talking about. The things I wish would have happened to me, I want to pass those on to them.
Yeah.
And make sure they're validated, for sure. All different ages. I mean, years ago, again, with Jackson being the first one, God gave me this idea that 4 years old, this is going to be their first kind of man trip of some sort. And so, we go that. It's beloved son stage, right? I see you. I love you. There's laughs. There's cuddles. There's all the things that you do when you're 4. And then it comes back to, after that, a 10-year-old trip. We just were supposed to have a 10-year-old trip for my son, Luke, and he got ill with a urinary tract infection, and we couldn't go. So sad. I mean, you got to think, he's been looking forward to that ever since Jackson went.
Yeah,
right?
Good point.
So for 4 years, he's looking forward to it, and he can't go because he's sick.
Yeah.
I'm doing that with Jackson as he's turning 14. He's getting a trip. But the things about those things that I've noticed and paid attention to in their development is, Jackson moving into this cowboy ranger in his own heart. He probably thinks warrior a little bit too. There's the sense of that's there. What am I going to do to see that and validate that, call that out, create an environment for that? And that's one of the things I love to do anyway.
Yeah.
So I like creating those spaces for them.
Yeah. One of the greatest opponents to fathering well is busyness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had those scheduled for our girls. I think one of their 10-year-old trips happened to Abby when she was 13.
That happened to Landon too.
Right.
His 4-year-old trip was 6.
And I know we can justify, or we didn't have money, or, whatever it is, but you got to be careful when you have the sibling scenario and the opportunities there. So we missed all their hearts when they were younger. Ashley had a love and a desire for horses, but Abby was the one I took horseback riding. And Ashley still has that as, you miss me. Sports and athletics, I would shoot baskets with Hannah and not invite Ashley. And Ashley wished she had been a part of that. Now, I coached their teams, but some of this is it's how they see it.
How they experience it.
And the enemy wants to work the short end of the stick. And I know I supported some of that messaging that they had, but Ashley's absolutely adventurous, creative. She's an explorer of truth and other things. Cooking. We were at the beach. Family just snuck away kind of in these last of the COVID days. And we got away. A friend let us engage in enjoying his beach house for a few days. So we all went down there. Well, Ashley's brought her own cast iron skillet. I mean, literally brought things so that she could bring a bit of her kitchen in there. Well, it was pretty obvious to me what I know now. Oh, whatever this is I'm about to eat is going to be the best. It's going to be good. And I wanted her to know that.
Right.
It's amazing what you made, what you did, what you prepared, chopping all of it. I mean, this wasn't stuff out of a box or a bag. These were ingredients that she brought together. Just to see that in her creativity that way.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah and her sales job, who knew? Out of college, she lands this sales rep job and she's knocking it out of the park. Again, now COVID comes along and all that kind of stuff, but She was making 40 and 50 calls a day. I can't get her to clean up her room. But to see that she has that ability, that
passion, that glory,
and that engagement, and validate it versus saying what I just said, right?
Yeah.
I can't get it, diminishing or even teasingly get that out there. And Abby's my rising senior in school. All my girls made great grades. I didn't do an awe enough over that. They were A students. I heard this skips a generation,
Yeah, I think it might be gender related too.
They might get it all from Robin.
That's right. But I didn't do it all enough, I attended a lot of games. I attended a lot of practices. You guys have heard me tell the one story before you swing at this too, SJ, that one time in high school, I missed one of Hannah's games.
Yeah.
But I was in the stands so often and watching my girls compete or play or recitals and things. So I remember coming home that night and Hannah was upset. I think they had lost. That added to it. She didn't particularly play well, but she knew I wasn't there. She said, Dad, and in the emotion of it, you never come to my games. I'm like, holy cow, who's telling her that, right? Who's ringing me up there? Because it wasn't true, but she felt in that night, that moment, it came out inaccurate or wrong. But if I address that rather than, buddy, what happened?
Right. If you go defensive.
She didn't play well. They lost. I get it. And I'm sorry, I'll do my best to make everyone from here out. I'll do my best, but they have to have some realistic expectations. But I would have missed her heart if I'd have said, who are you talking to?
Let me show you my daytime.
That's right. Anyway.
There's a couple of things that come to mind, Michael, for me. I think the first one would be when it comes to validation, I heard someone talk about what's called the cork principle is the way he talked about it. And so if you lay a cork in the bottom of an empty glass, it just lays there, right? But to whatever level you fill the glass, whatever you pour in there, the cork rises to that level. And so as you think about affirming your kids and validating your kids, you got to keep pouring into that glass and affirming them, and they will rise up to that level, right? Mm-hmm. Now, this isn't a foolproof 100% money-back guarantee, right? Yeah. That will always happen. However, what I have experienced in my own life and in the life of my son is that there is truth to that when you pour into them and you speak life over them, they rise up to meet that.
One of the things, Greg, I've learned with the girls, back to the words being powerful. I love using a powerful word, powerful phrase, powerful gift, but I'm proud of you as a really close second.
Mm-hmm. Very, very different.
I see what you did. I'm proud of you. Well done. Well done. Those are very powerful words for no matter how old your son or daughter are. So let's wrap up a little bit. How are you seeing, some of the uniqueness of the boys and going after it?
Yeah, I mean, they're all so different and individual, and I could talk about each one of them for a long time with this. I want to talk about Landon. You guys have heard me talk about him before, and then at our weekends, he has ADHD, so it is at the closest part of my heart of being so frustrated, so completely taken out and upset sometime with him because he can get me to that place so quickly. And then at the same time, have, of all my children, the most compassion and just a little sadness about some of the things that he's going through. Right. It's almost Jekyll and Hyde-ish, honestly, where at one moment I can be so frustrated and the next moment so proud. I mean, within seconds of it. And so being able to, in that training circle, to stay on my observation deck, which we like to talk about, and make sure as I'm responding to him, I'm responding at that place of settledness. So the other day, we're in the house, and it's very consistent for him to have trouble at supper time. He has a very textural thing in his mouth. He can only eat certain things or he's done, okay? And so, we're always trying to manage how much do you want to make that roll and do what? Just dadgummit, you got to eat it.
Allowances versus requirements, right?
Exactly.
And between all the kids that are sitting there, how come he gets to, and what,
exactly.
All that is right there. I get it.
Oh my goodness. So trying to manage all that. He hates chicken, by the way. And we eat chicken more than anything else because who doesn't, with 4 kids and it's cheap. And so the other day he comes to the table and he says, I'm going to eat chicken tonight. And he's just being funny. I'm like looking at everybody else and I'm like, did you just say we're going to have chicken? You're going to eat chicken? Yeah, I'm going to eat it tonight. And then he's like, I'm just joking. I'm not going to eat it. Can I have peanut butter and jelly? And I was like, well done, buddy. I am so proud of you for being funny. Yeah. And He said, I just can't eat chicken. Blah.
Little things.
I mean, and
they matter.
So little.
Those little moments matter, man. They really do. There's no doubt.
Yeah. And everybody laughed, and it wasn't the normal. I mean, literally sometimes just so many struggles with supper time with him, having to remove him from the situation. And it was just lighthearted and so much grace.
We've heard so many men's stories. And what I would want our listeners to know, just again, the importance of what you just said. You take that one moment and you say, don't ever do that again.
I know.
He might never try to be funny again.
Never again.
For 30 years, 20 years, 10 years. I mean, that's the power of your words, opportunity. This is fragile, and it's a hard job. And it's one that's going to take all of you, every bit of you, to engage in the lives, the rearing, the growing, the investing. And men, I think, SJ, we all know there's such thing as kid wounds. Our kids have hurt our hearts and wounded our hearts in some way, shape, or form. There's wife wounds. As a man walking with God, you're going to get hit.
I'm so glad you said it that way, because the other thing I wanted to share was you don't have to swing at every pitch, man. You don't have to swing at every pitch, especially when they're coming from your kids. You don't know what happened to them. Like you were talking about with Hannah. She lets that thing fly about how you never come to her games, but thinking about it, she may have had a tough day at school and then they didn't win the game, or maybe she got benched or whatever it was, and it came out that way. But you don't have to swing at every pitch that comes down the plate, man. Yeah.
Or I would say I've got a friend who said, I just realized I threw myself on the sword over and over and over again. It's always my fault. It's so, that's not helpful.
Either extreme is not helpful.
And so,
it seems noble.
Yeah.
Right? But it really, in the end, is not helpful.
And it teaches them something that isn't really true or good about you, your character. So there's a lot on this. I mean, the new book, King Me, has got a lot of material in this coming out in the fall. Heart of a Warrior, another great resource to, before you fight for their hearts, get your heart back. What does that look like? How does a man engage in that? But as we wrap it up, I just would say, dads out there, you got this. You can do this. This is a training ground in which God has put these kids in your life to teach you how to love, to teach you about his love for you, and then through you, your love for them. So experiencing and encountering the love of the Father is, back to the very beginning, full circle now.
It's headwaters.
That's where you got to go, because that's where your healing is what they need. And your wholeheartedness is what they need. And when you can catch up and get that stuff taken care of out of the trunk, right, under the hood and out of the trunk, when you can go to God for that, you're actually going to be getting the equipment to go with God for them. So dads, I just want to pray a blessing over you and invite you into this phenomenal, critical, tremendous role as a father. And so let me pray for Father's Day, this blessing. God, we are so grateful that you had in mind fatherhood when you made us, and that you actually use the term, the name, the identity of father for us to understand and perceive you. We just ask, invite, and declare that you are our Father. You're a good, good Father, and that you want to father us. We align our hearts as men, as dads, with your Father heart, and we bring the canopy of the love and the protection and provision of God over our lives as dads. Jesus, we want to do this well, and we need your help. Holy Spirit, we pray that you would give us eyes to see and ears to hear our sons and daughters' hearts, where they are, where they aren't, where we've missed, what we can validate, how we can pray for them and over them, what the enemy's trying to do or has been doing to them, and interceding on their behalf, as well as preparing. I think, Jesus, so much in my life, when I see that, that's when you tend to then encourage and deploy me into their stories and into their lives. So I pray, Jesus, that you'd give me eyes to see and ears to hear where they are and how to go after them, how to love them well, validate them, invite them, and model for them. What does it look like to walk with you intimately and experience and encounter you, telling them some of the stories of what you're doing in my life, to me and for me and through me. I pray that as dads, we could tell those kinds of stories, and it would be inspiring and inviting for them to walk with you then as well. Bless these dads. Bless us in this Father's Day. Thank you for this series. It's been good for my heart, God, and I pray that it's been good for the hearts of men. All this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. And you got this, dads.
You got this. No doubt.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you've enjoyed what we had to share this week. And we've got so much more. If you're just joining us on the Charisma Podcast Network, check out some of our previous episodes. I think this is about 113 or so. We've got lots to share with you. If you'd like to know more about Zoweh and check out some of our resources, we have free resources available on our website, zoweh.org.
Yeah, Father's Day stuff.
Right, but we also have some great gifts on there. If you're thinking about something for your own dad, or, hey, you know what my wife does sometimes is say, hey, it's Father's Day, I got you a nice present, but you go pick out something for yourself. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go to zoweh.org and check out some of the things we have there available to you, do that. And if you have any questions or concerns or ideas or just things you might want to float by us, send us an email at exploringmore@zoweh.org. Give us a rate, review, and a subscribe on your platform of choice, and that would really help us out. Share one of your favorite episodes with one of your friends. Get the word out about Exploring More. That would help us too. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is zoweh.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the life of more by visiting Zoweh on YouVersion Bible app, Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoweh on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.